everybody, it's Renato, and I'm here with a very special guest, Michelle Castellano Keeler, and she's now the past president of the Society of American Florists. And we're actually here at the SAF convention in Phoenix, and you're just recently the past president because you passed on the gavel over to Oscar Fernandez
This morning. Yep.
So this podcast will be focusing on really your accomplishments and your experience as president of the Society of American Florists. But before we jump into that,
Okay.
I wanted to have you introduce yourself and let viewers know a little bit more about you.
Sure. My name is Michelle Castellano Keeler. My company is Milano and Company. I'm a third generation flower grower. We're located in Southern California where we farm outdoor flowers. And we also have wholesale locations in Los Angeles, Orange County, Carlsbad, and Las Vegas.
And how long have you guys been in business?
In 1925, my grandfather started the business. It was taken over by my two uncles and my father, and now myself and a few cousins.
You were SAF president. What does it take, or what kind of groundwork is needed for you to become SAF president? Do you have to be volunteer for a very long time, and is there a path to the presidency? I just wanted to give folks more of an idea.
Absolutely. The way SAF is structured is really great. So they have all kinds of areas where you can be a volunteer leader. They have growers council, retail councils, and then from there you can move up to being on the board. And they have the board, which it's actually structured really nicely. There's 3 retailers, 3 wholesaler importer distributors, 3 growers on the board, and then there's always an international seat as well. And once you've served on the board of directors at the Society of American Florists, you qualify to run for president. And then they also have, the president sits on what's called an executive committee, and there's the current president, the past president, which is your outgoing president, which I became this morning, and there's your incoming president. And it's structured really well, and it's a really good balance because there's always then at that level a retailer, someone from the retail segment, someone from the wholesale distributor segment, and someone from the grower segment. So it's really great that while there's a president, it's really an executive team that's there and can address any topics that come up. So while I was president, if a retail topic really came up at that level, Chris Drummond, who was the retailer, is sitting on that executive team. So, we have the balance of having all those voices heard, which is a really smart
and that's really
cool. Effective way.
Yeah, I think the smart thing is that you're able to keep a continuity of the knowledge.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
It's not a situation where someone comes in completely green and not knowing what has happened.
Right.
In the previous
or from one segment that can't really speak to another segment's issues. So it's great. So
you became president in 2021, and the reason why I am bringing up that date, because that literally was, I guess, the beginning of the post-COVID era for, everybody, not only our industry. Could you recall the state of the industry at the time, and how do you feel SAF helped the industry migrate during this uncertainty, time of uncertainty? Yeah, so I became president at that time, but I really joined the executive committee during COVID happened.
Yeah. And, God bless Chris Drummond, who was the president and a retailer at that time when everything happened. He really had to take that on. Going into 2021, then things were changing. We were coming out of it. We were able to get back to conventions like we're at now. And we were really looking at ways to connect people. People were desperate to get back to live meetings and to connect. And I think what's been really exciting to see that SAF has offered in that time is maybe some things we were talking about prior to COVID got to come to fruition. Like they got to. And a really exciting thing to have watched is NextGen. SAF now has what they call NextGen Live, an event that the next geners under 45 get to go to. And it had started prior to that at the convention. They would have a little reception or a little party where that group would get together. And it was going so well, that group wanted more. And it's been really fun in these last 2 years. I mean, I can't take credit for it as president, but it's fun to be part of as SAF grew this.
It did happen under your watch, right?
It happened. I mean, the seeds were planted before, but you're right. The crop, if we're going to use farming terms,
go ahead and say
the beautiful crop came under my presidency. Awesome. But it's a pretty exciting thing to see because it's a huge group. They're young. They have fresh ideas. And that's the future of our industry.
Correct.
Like those are
Yeah.
the seedlings that we need to be fostering and bringing them in. So I think that's been a lot of fun. One thing that's come post COVID is we were all sick of Zoom calls and webinars. At the same time, we really learned how well it is to connect people that way. And when you come to an SAF convention, part of the best part is retailers are sitting with, wholesalers are sitting with, and it's a really great place for those conversations.
So really
happen.
a lot of collaborations happening at a strategic level.
Absolutely.
You know, when you kind of have that forum to have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you sit there with a designer who's never met a grower or a breeder and all that happens. And now, in the last year, really, we've started with executive roundtables at SAF. And those are some great online roundtables where we can continue those conversations, where you can talk about grower issues or, you know, trends, things like that with everyone from the industry coming together. So that's been really fun because it is my favorite part of the convention is getting everyone together at the same table.
Yeah,
so now we can continue it.
So aside from, you know, NextGen and a couple of things that you already mentioned, you know, what other accomplishments do you feel most proud that happened under your watch?
You know, there's so many things that have happened in these few years. For me, coming and getting to represent the growers, especially the domestic growers, has been my proudest. I love the domestic grower. And, you know, SAF is changing because our industry is changing. And just being able to be here and as topics come up, I think that's been one of the things I think that's great about SAF, that being on the executive committee and being president, I got to see is a lot of behind the scene things. And one of the things that's just fantastic is the advocacy work that SAF does. Joe Bischoff, I just can't say enough about what he does up on the Hill on behalf of our industry. But as a grower, really getting to see what he's doing on behalf
So real quickly, because a lot of people may not know Joe so well. So Joe.
Yes, you're a good point. Joe Bischoff is the senior lobbyist for SAF with Cornerstone.
That's right.
Cornerstone.
Yeah. Cornerstone.
And so he's the guy that's up on the Hill in Washington, D.C. and fighting for our issues. And he's such a champion. And while we say that, like, I think one of the best parts of being president was getting to kind of see behind the scenes how much of that work is going on. I don't think most of the public does know that. And so on behalf of the growers, it was really great to work with Joe and see, you know, what he did for the growers during COVID, but what he does just every day.
And actually, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to give a plug for the event that happens every year.
Congressional Action Days? Absolutely.
So tell us more about Congressional Action Days.
Yeah, SAF has a fantastic event every spring called Congressional Action Days, where we, as just everyday members of the floral industry, whether you have a flower shop, whether you have a farm, whatever, get to come to Washington, D.C. And Joe and his team really just train us on a couple of issues. It's not complicated. And then we go on the Hill. We go and have appointments with congressmen, senators, and we talk about those issues. And I think it's really important because it's great that Joe is there year round, but we can complain about the government officials all we want. But I always say, you can't get mad at your congressman if he's not voting ways you want for your business if you haven't told him about your business.
They need to be informed.
That's exactly right. A congressman doesn't know how to run a flower farm unless I go and tell my congressman how to run a flower farm or a flower shop or whatever. So it's a really great event. I think everyone should do it at least once, if not more.
If not more, right? Because I mean, these issues change all the time.
The issues are changing all the time.
And we truly have to advocate for our industry.
If we don't speak for ourselves, you know, and there's something very cool about our country, and I hate to get a little sappy here,
go for it.
But I think it's great. You know, some little flower grower from San Diego is allowed to go walk the halls of Congress in the United States, knock on your congressman's door, and he listens to you. Now, at the end of the day, does he vote the way you want? I mean, that's a whole lot more, but you get to do that, and you get to literally have a voice. And I think we take for granted how great that is. And so I just really encourage anyone and everyone to come out to Congressional Action Days. So
that's
absolutely.
Awesome. That's awesome. So you've handed the gavel to Oscar Fernandez.
It is now Oscar's.
Is there any advice that you'd give to him, given your experience leading the society as president?
You know, yeah, I think Oscar knows, like, he's been on the executive committee. For me, it's always the greatest thing to listen. It's so great that we get to learn from the other segments. And I think that's just been the collaborativeness and listening and learning from the other segments makes us a stronger team and a stronger. So I just really value, and I know Oscar will as well, the education of learning from everyone, but it's also just, we are in a great industry with great people, and it's just fantastic to sit there and get to know everyone and have this period of time where we get to really do that and spend time with the other segments and getting to know really great people.
Well, as you described in the structure, you're not going anywhere. You're still going to be serving out a couple more years.
That's
right?
exactly correct. I still have 2 more years as outgoing president.
So we will continue to benefit from Michelle's knowledge and experience in the leadership role that you have transitioned to. So we truly appreciate, your leadership that you have, demonstrated literally in the past several years.
Oh, you're sweet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's been wonderful having you as a guest. And friends, don't, and remember, it's no use crying over spilled petals. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.